Hi, this is James Gordon-Oaktrell here with the ninth book in the Jack Ryan John Clark series. I am almost done with this series. I'm getting halfway there. The book I'll be talking about today, Executive Orders. This book was first published by G.P. Poom and Sons on July 1st, 1996. This Berkeley edition is August 1997. This was one massive brick to get through. As of now, this is the longest book I have ever read on the channel. At a whopping 1,358 pages, this is the longest book I've read to date, and I am proud to have accomplished reading this massive brick, even though it took me the entire month of September to read through it. I originally was going to try to get my review up last night, but I was just exhausted after reading this massive brick, so I decided to do this video in the morning, which was definitely a better choice. But anyway, holy shit, this was an awesome, epic thriller. This had everything that I wanted in a Tom Clancy book. It's got action, suspense, it's got intense moments, there's a lot of highly detailed scenery within the book, lots of interesting locations that the novel takes place in, a lot of characters to follow in this story. And unlike Clancy's other book, The Cardinal of the Kremlin, which had a lot of things happening within that massive book, and it was very complex and confusing at times, Clancy does a much better job at handling all the subplots within this novel, and does a really good job of with the pacing and flowing each subplot through the story, so it blends in perfectly and it just works. It doesn't drag on the scenes or like make it too complex. So I was able to read through this no problem. I had no difficulty while reading the through scenes throughout the book, and I understood what was happening, what was going on in it, and overall, I was really impressed with this novel. This is now my fourth favorite book in the series. There were a few things I didn't like, but overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend this if you are a fan of political, military thriller novels. And this one even has medical thriller in it as well. It was interesting to see Clancy blend that genre into his works. However, if you want to read this book and you don't want to read this massive brick, I would recommend the hardcover, as that has 800 pages. The paperback is over, like I said, it's over 1,138 pages long. So it's up to you to decide which version you want to read, but overall, I highly recommend this book. Alright, on to the book review. Plot. On January 1996, U.S. President Roger Dorian, along with most of the executive, legislative, and judicial figures, are killed when a JAL Boeing 747-400 crashes into the Capitol. The large airliner has crashed through the top of the building, sending large chunks of concrete down onto the people inside, exploding everyone in a fiery death. Only the tail of the plane is intact and is sticking out. Everyone is shocked by this sudden event, with the news crews, police, and firefighters swarming to the scene, followed by the FBI and NTSB. Jack Ryan, who was offered to become vice president, has now been sworn in as the president while having dinner with his family at the White House. Ryan orders his family taken to Camp David to be kept there for safety, while he begins working with both his staff, Secret Service, along with his close group of friends, while trying to remain calm during this intense moment. Both Ryan's friends, American citizens, and the rest of the world are shocked by what has happened at the Capitol, making them uneasy of what's going to happen next. During the investigation, Dan Murray calls Ryan, asking how he's doing and who's running the show at the Hill. Ryan puts Dan in charge of the investigation, as he needs all the help he can get. As the NTSB and FBI work through the wreckage at the Capitol, they find the pilot, Toradora Sada, along with his co-pilot, who was murdered by Sato, allowing him full control of the plane. The death toll reported is high, with several bodies being pulled out, along with badly dismembered body parts, with news crews filming the aftermath of this tragedy. The NTSB is able to recover both black boxes as the agencies share their findings with the president. Ryan believes this was an act of revenge by one person, and Japan isn't to blame. It's later revealed that Sato carried out this lone wolf terrorist act for the death of his son and brother, who were both killed during the war against Japan. Both Dan and the NTSB agree with the findings. Japanese Prime Minister Moritoru Koga wishes to speak with Ryan, and he expresses his condolences to this terrible event. Ryan accepts while giving interviews to different news agencies, trying to remain calm and focused while he's under a lot of stress. Ryan, along with his family and the remaining family members of Roger during attend the fallen president's funeral, with several world leaders coming to pay their respects. It's a very difficult day for Ryan, breaking down in tears during a speech while being filmed by a large crowd of news crew. As people both in the U.S. and around the world see the new president, some believe Jack Ryan will do his best to lead their nation, while others disagree, with some wanting the new president dead. Hayatollah Mohammed Hajidari from Iran sees the new president as a threat and views this event as an opportunity to strike back at the Americans. Diarachi sends an undercover agent into Baghdad, Iraq, assassinating Saddam Hussein close range with a pistol. At the same time, two right-wing extremists and racist bigots, mountain men, Peter Herbrook and Ernest Brown, dislike Jack Ryan and plot to assassinate him. Ryan is alerted by the assassination while he dislikes the Iraq president, who was cruel and mean man, but fears that if Iran is behind this assassination, it might trigger a war. While Ryan is trying to gather as much information on the assassination and who's behind it, at the same time he's trying to rebuild a new government from the ground up and begins picking people he's known over the years. And makes a live speech revealing what has happened in the past week and his plans to rebuild his nation. Just as things seem to be going well, Ryan is awoken at 6 a.m. in the morning by his chief of staff, Arnold Arnie Van Dam, that they got another problem. Vice President Ed Kilty appears live on CNN and attempts to sabotage Ryan's legacy and wants to claim his throne at the White House, stating he never resigned and that Ryan doesn't have what it takes to be the president. Ryan won't allow Kennedy to easily win and wants an investigation launched against him. If they can prove he lied about resigning and anything else illegal against him, they'll be able to get rid of Kennedy for good. Ryan is furious that someone wants to lie to the people and run the system like a game and isn't going to allow it to happen. Ryan believes being honest with the people than lying to them will make a stronger, better nation. When Ryan goes live again, he gives a statement of the assassination in Iraq and is hoping the new president will be able to repair their relations rather than stay as enemies. However, the news reporters are more interested in what Kennedy has stated during his live interview. Ryan tells them that Kennedy claims are false and has no say in this and has launched an investigation against Kennedy as he won't allow him to take over and hasn't forgotten about his past crimes. While Arnie is pleased how Ryan handled it, but tells Arnie the one thing that annoyed him was none of the reporters said, "Mr. President." When Kennedy appears again on live TV with more trash talk, this angers Ryan, with Arnie warning him to keep his cool, as Kennedy is using dirty tactics against him, and should he snap on live TV, the public will turn on him. Ryan nods while making plans to keep tabs on Iraq and its neighboring country, Iran. Doherty then launches his next part of his plan by invading Iraq since it has no government. Iranians have little resistance to deal with and easily take over Iraq. With the country in their control, Dadi calls the new state United Islamic Republic. Ryan is told about this sudden invasion as all news and radio stations in Iraq have been taken over. This also causes further tension with neighboring countries, with Saudi Arabia fearing another attack might happen like in the Gulf War. Ryan makes a live news statement that the U.S. will aid Saudi Arabia should UIR attack them, but is annoyed with more questions about his rival Kennedy, causing Ryan to lose a bit of his anger and express his views on his religion and abortion laws. This angers Arnie as he tells Ryan this could jeopardize his career, as he sounded like it was going to take women's rights away. Arnie quickly speaks on this event, stating the news reporters misheard what Ryan said and Kennedy is not the president no matter what he claims. As Ryan is getting more and more people to rebuild a new government, Arnie gives him some advice on interviews and needs to gain the people's trust, and plans to have Ryan visit several states to gain more trust in the public. His first visit to India goes well. Meanwhile, Dariana is plotting a deadly biological attack on the United States with a weaponized strain of Ebola. And both Peter Herbrook and Ernest Brown plan to kill both Ryan and Kennedy using a bomb hidden on a cement truck. When the first news footage appears from United Islamic Republic, with its leader Diardi, states he wants to bring peace to the Holy Land and wants other Arab countries to join him. However, none of the neighboring countries wish to join, putting everyone on high alert for a sudden attack. Ryan tells the Prince Ali of Saudi Arabia he will aid them should they be attacked. Ryan then wants aid from Kuwait as well. Growing desperate to derail Ryan's career, Kilty uses his contacts to dig up any classified files on Ryan, then passes this information to two journalists, Tom Donner, a anchor for the NBC, and TV commentator John Plummer. Both reporters attempt to grill Ryan on live TV, asking about these classified questions along with skepticism of his plan of rebuilding this nation. Ryan does his best to keep cool, but refuses to answer him. Both Tom and John go after anyone they can find linked to Ryan's past, while Jones from the USS Dallas refuses to answer them and assaults Tom. However, they find KGB agent Nikolai Gerasimov and confirm some of the events. Ryan and Arnie realize there's been a leak. They don't know who's passing this information to KDD, but plan to silence the person before it causes any further damage. Arnie warns that an investigation might be launched against them, but they'll do everything they can to prevent it if possible. As Ryan is trying to rebuild both the government and military, Ryan hears reports of a viral outbreak happening in Africa, along with tension between Taiwan and China. Ryan just knows there's more trouble ahead of him, feeling the stress of being the president. Following a trail of clues from both the failed kidnapping attempt and a biological attack on the U.S., Ryan has John Clark and Domino Ding Chavez to investigate, leading them to the Middle East, Paris, and Africa. Ryan is thrown into a series of intense and high-risk situations that put his family, his nation, and the rest of the world in danger, from terrorist conflict in the Middle East with the UIR, an epidemic, a civil war between two rival countries in Asia, an assassination plot against him, and the dark secrets that jeopardized Ryan's career as president. Despite all odds against him and KD's cruel and dirty methods to destroy him, Ryan refuses to give up, and with the aid of his close friends and allies, President Ryan ensures he will defeat his enemies and help rebuild his nation no matter what it costs. Executive Orders was a gripping and very intense thriller, highly detailed with a large cast of heavily layered characters and many subplots to follow. Good pacing with each event taking place, as there was never a dull moment within the novel, from life in the White House, different agencies in the military, at work, along with hospital scenes. Lots of action, epic battles, destruction, intense moments that kept me on the edge of my seat. Clancy gets right into the aftermath of the events in debit of honor, not wasting any time or dragging scenes, and a few parts I laughed. Was impressed how Clancy handles all the subplots, that each one flows through the novel and makes it simple to read and not too complex, unlike the Cardinal of the Kremlin. Very detailed, as I had a good understanding of what was going on in each scene. Enjoyed the moments of action and combat throughout this novel. Also, the drama was well balanced as well. Clancy does a much better job of keeping both the thriller and drama scenes entertaining and not too stressful to read. Many characters to follow within this heavily layered novel, while Jack Ryan is quickly learning what it's like being president and how to handle each challenge he and his team faces. The novel also follows the lives of Kathy Ryan, his wife, assisting her husband and trying to help patients at the hospital she works at, then plays a very important role during the viral outbreak. Other characters I enjoyed following throughout this novel were John Clark, Domino Corvez, Danbury, and other characters I liked. There were several characters I really disliked and hated. Ed KDD was a total asshole, using every dirty trick he knows to attack Jack Ryan, along with annoying him every moment he could appear on live TV. He even pays two journalists to turn against Ryan, but this fails when both Tom Donner and John Plummer realize they've been lied to and turn against KDD. This was one character I really hated and wanted to see something nasty happen to him for all the shit he has caused, but by the end of the novel, KDD is history. While both Tom Donner and John Plummer were scumbags at the start of the novel, however, both men learned the error of their ways and side over to Jack Ryan, as both men apologized for attacking him. The two other characters I really hated and felt the subplot could have either been improved or taken out of the novel was the failed assassination attempt of the Mountain Men. Peter Herbrook and Ernest Brown's idea of killing Jack Ryan with a cement truck loaded with enough explosives to kill him almost felt corny. How they planned to do this is not fully explained, and their attempt fails miserably towards the end of the novel. I wish either Clancy added this scene sooner in the novel than later, or cut it out completely. However, the movie star's assassination attempt on the president nearly succeeds, but is outsmarted by Danbury and other FBI and USS agents. Dariardi was a cruel and evil man and hell-bent on controlling the Middle East, along with causing a massive death toll to the United States with the aid of Dr. Mohammed Mosul for weaponizing the Ebola virus. Both these two characters were really good villains. Despite how long this massive brick was to read, I highly enjoyed it with very little I didn't like, and the finale was very satisfying. I highly recommend Executive Orders. It is a real 5-star knockout by Tom Clancy and blows any Hollywood action film out of the water. If you can handle reading this massive brick, then you won't be disappointed. Alright, that's our review today. Hope you enjoy it. As I said, I had a real blast reading Executive Orders. This is one hell of a thriller. And one of Clancy's best books I've read so far. Definitely, I rank this as my 4th favorite in the series. right from the start, it gets it gets right into it. It continues after the events of Dividend Honor. So, as I said at the end of my review, Jack Ryan is basically he's thrown out the frying pan into the fire as he deals with a bunch of challenges and problems he faces as the president, as he's trying to balance both his role as president at the same time, balance his family life as well and other problems that he faces. And Clancy does a really good job with the storytelling. The pacing was excellent. There was never a dull moment in the book, and it never gets slow ever. And the subplots, he does a really good job of handling them as each one flows throughout the novel perfectly, and it doesn't they don't drag on with the story or adds any unwanted filler. Each subplot flowed perfectly throughout the book, which was really good. As I said before, in his previous novel, The Cardinal of the Kremlin, I felt he did a good job of balancing out the subplots, as they were very kind of difficult and complex to read at times, and felt some of the pacing was not well balanced. Clancy does a much better job of executive orders. He does a much better job of balancing out each subplot, and it just flows perfectly throughout the book, which made it much easier to read because this book is thick as hell. I can only imagine this took him quite a long time to write this massive brick, and probably an intensive studying a lot of subjects he had to research for this novel. There's many moments that I enjoyed in the book. Lots of action, tense moments in the White House and the hospital scenes, and a couple other parts in the book that I really enjoyed. When it does get to like the battle scenes and stuff, I really enjoyed these scenes a lot. Just a lot of like intensive, high octane action, which I really enjoyed. And the carnage in some of the battle scenes is absolutely brutal. Like, Clancy shows how brutal some of these battle scenes can really get, and I really enjoyed that. I also like the beginning part of the book where it has that the attack on the Capitol and the destruction the Sado has caused with the Boeing 747 flying straight to the Capitol, and the destruction it caused. I really enjoyed reading that scene, and just the whole aftermath of that part was just like, damn, this is like really like a really like dark and strong way to start the book off. And the other scenes I liked throughout the book where it goes to different parts of the world, and we're following these other characters and we're seeing how each one plays a role in the story. I really enjoyed that. And there's a lot of characters in this story, a lot of characters. I always like Jack Ryan. He's an interesting character, and he does a really good job of being the president. He understands what needs to be done. He doesn't waste time. He doesn't fool around or do anything stupid. He understands the problem. He handles it. He does a really good job, and he gets really good assistance from those working with him, his close friends, which really helps out a lot throughout the book. And the other characters I enjoyed following were John Clark and Charvez. They're always interesting to follow. Characters I like reading in throughout the series, and this time they do a lot more in this book than the last Dev Honor. They were doing stuff, but it wasn't towards the end where they were doing something in the book. This one they're doing a lot more in it, which I was really satisfied with. And there's a lot of other interesting characters. I like Dan Murray, and there's just many characters I enjoyed reading throughout this book. And if we finally get to see more of Jack Ryan's family in the book, which I felt in the other novels Clancy didn't focus a little bit on. I don't need it to be focused heavily on, just a little bit, just to see some scenes of what his family life is like. We get to see more of that in this novel. Oh yeah, and there's also a lot of there's a couple of shootout scenes in this book, and there was one I really liked. It was like, damn, this is really good. It was a short yet intense, brutal moment in the novel. There are several characters I really dislike in this book, especially the Ed Kennedy character. I really hate this guy. Like, he was a scumbag in Debt of Honor, but this one, but in Executive Orders, he's even worse. He's a real asshole. He tries every dirty trick he knows to use against Jack Ryan, and he would always just, like, annoy me. Every time I'm reading the book, and then he suddenly appears live on TV to talk more bullshit, I thought, oh, go away. Like, he was absolutely annoying to deal with, and I was thinking to myself, couldn't Jack Ryan just have someone slip something into, like, his coffee or something so that way he gets diarrhea on live television, or just, makes him ill so he can't be on TV for a while, just not to kill him, but just to make him go away for a little bit. But he was an annoying character, and then towards the middle towards the middle and the end of the book, he really gets desperate and tries having two journalists turn against Jack Ryan, which these other two characters, Tom Donner and John Plummer, I didn't like these guys. These two guys were just real scumbags, and just they're more interested in just causing drama, so that way they can boost their news ratings, and so they can get a big story for their network. However, luckily these two characters are told off by another person who makes them have a change of heart and learn the error of their ways, and then they turn against Keaty towards the end of the book, which that I was really happy with, and they apologize for lying, which I thought, okay, you know what, these that I was happy with. I thought, okay, these two characters, they apologize for what they did, good, and they learn the error of their ways, and plus they turn on Keaty, so that I was really happy with. Yeah, I really wanted something to happen to that. I really was hoping that I thought, please tell me that the Keaty character gets killed or something bad really happens to him where he's just screwed for life. Well, it doesn't reveal what happens to him at the end of the book, but you kind of get the idea this guy is history. So he's done by the end of this novel, so that's good. The villains in the book, like the Daryari, the leader of the United Islam Republic, this guy was a real menace. He's cruel, very evil, hell-bent on controlling the Middle East, and then wanting to cause a massive death toll to his enemies with the biological weapon that he has his assistant do. And these two guys were really just pure evil villains, and they were just absolute scumbags. I was satisfied what happens to the end of the book, so they were excellent villains to read for this novel. However, there are two characters I wish Clancy did a better job at writing, as I felt this subplot was kind of a little corny almost. Was the subplot of the two mountain men, this militia group of these two men, Peter Herbrook and Ernest Brown. Their plan is to kill both Jack Ryan and Keaty as well, because they dislike the government anyway. So their plan was to blow them up with a cement truck loaded with explosive, and I'm like, how is this going to work? As I'm reading for the book, and then when their scenes would appear, I thought, okay, they're making preparations, but then towards the end of the book, when they're driving this cement truck to Washington, I thought, wait a minute, let me get this straight. They're going to drive a cement truck to Washington, D.C., and what? Park it next to the White House and think no one's going to notice anything, and then set it off, or put it next to a presidential event or something? I just couldn't see this working. As I was reading more, it got me thinking, wait a minute. People are going to notice a cement truck right away. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. This isn't going to work. And I was wondering, do these guys really think they're planning out that well? A cement truck, really? It would make more sense if they used a cargo van or a delivery truck or something that would blend into the background. No, a cement truck load of explosive is going to easily just blend it into Washington, D.C., and they're going to be able to assassinate the president, no problem. I almost felt this was just, the scene just felt corny. I thought, there's no way this is going to work. I just can't see this happening. But it doesn't really play out in a major role towards the end of the book. The plan, of course, fails miserably. I thought, I wish Clancy put more effort into this subplot by having it sooner in the book than later, or not adding entirely. This could have played out a very interesting role in the book had it been done better, or Clancy just took it out. Either way, it's a scene that I felt that either could have been part of the story if it was done properly, or it not, or just cut it out if he was going to just do it the way he did it. There was some humor in this book. There was actually a funny part I read where John Clark is talking with an old friend of his, and they're at a bar, and the guy is joking, saying, I would like to write a book about you, and then John Clark replies, okay, then get Val Kilmer to play me in the movie. And I chuckled. I thought that's funny, and then the guy says, oh no, it would be better if I got Nick Cage to play as you. I thought, oh no, please, I'll take Val Kilmer over Nick Cage any day of the week. But then it got me thinking, was Val Kilmer an actor that Clancy had in mind to play John Clark? There was this discussion I saw on the Tom Clancy Facebook group, and people were talking about actors they would like to see play the characters if this series was to get rebooted, and there was one person who felt that they could have gotten a better actor to play as John Clark. I really thought Willem Dafoe did a really good job playing as John Clark. I remember reading that when they wanted to do the Without Remorse movie, they were thinking of getting either him or Keanu Reeves to play the role for that movie, which unfortunately never happened. And I was like, well, Willem Dafoe did a good job, but now I'm kind of curious what Val Kilmer is. I'm curious what Val Kilmer would have done if he was given the chance to play that role. There was also another funny part where Jones from the USS Dallas insults one of the reporters, Tom, in one part, and I chuckled at this scene where he's trying to get information from him, and then Jones says, "You know what was the craziest thing I heard on sonar?" And Tom asks what? Jones replies, "Elvis," and hangs up, and I just laughed. I thought that scene was funny. So despite the one little part I didn't like, the one subplot I felt that could have been done better or just cut out, but overall I really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend Executive Orders. It was an excellent thriller. If you're a big fan of military thrillers, political thrillers, and even medical thrillers all blended together, this would be an excellent book to read. It's never a dull moment, so you never get bored reading it. The one thing as I was reading this book, I was thinking to myself, if they were to make this into a movie, I could just imagine how expensive it would be. Probably be the most expensive movie to be made if back in the 90s. If they were to do all the subplots within the movie and stuff, and I was just imagining who would play all the characters and how it would be filmed. It's the one thing I always I do when I read these books. I always envision if it was to be made into a movie, what it would look like and who would play the characters and stuff. I always visualize that, and the soundtracks and the scenery scenes and stuff. I can only imagine if Paramount Pictures had they done a better job with Clear Presence Danger, they could have done the other Tom Clancy books. And I can only imagine how expensive and big this project would have been to film this as a movie. I was even thinking what if they did a mini series like this, that way they could film each subplot. And I thought, yeah, they could have done that too, but I prefer more of a movie where I just go to the movie theaters, just sit down and just enjoy watching a movie and stuff. So overall, I highly enjoyed this book. Alright, that's the review today. I hope you enjoyed it. And for the next book in the Jack Ryan John Clark series, Rainbow Six, I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Alright, that's the review today. I hope you enjoyed it. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel where I post book reviews, book hauls, and our fiction-related content. Until then, I'll catch you later.